Why now and why Wembley?
Well, there's an urgency of the gospel right now, isn't there, in society? Even churches are being locked down and closed down. Some are being pumped out online. Some people are still trying to get their services going. But there's been evangelists in the streets preaching the gospel in the United Kingdom. And I believe now is the time of revival. And how's revival going to come? It's going to come in the streets. People, normal people like you and I, have got to meet Jesus Christ. How is that going to happen? It's going to happen through the proclamation of the gospel. So that's why right now we need an Evangelists Conference.
How do you personally prepare to evangelize to others?
The biggest thing that I prepare is in the secret place, because before we go to the public place, we need to have met the Father in the secret place. Basically, being in the presence of God, being hungry for God ourselves, being in His presence. And when we take His presence out into the streets and we preach the gospel, see, the gospel needs to have the presence of Jesus on it. You know, so when you're preaching the gospel, people have got to have an encounter with Jesus. And often we're just speaking words that don't make a difference. But when you've been in the secret place, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is in your personal prayer life, that devotional life is going to have an impact, and it makes a difference.
And what would you say is your favorite passage in the Bible?
I mean, for me, for this conference, it's got to be Mark 16. We started a ministry called M16 Revival, which basically is about reviving the Great Commission. The Great Commission of Mark 16 is about the go of the gospel. Go into all the world and preach or speak the message of the gospel, the message of Jesus. And so the reason why I'm called to be an evangelist, someone told me when I was 16, you're an evangelist. I didn't know what that meant, but I know it's about the public proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Amen. What would you say is the most profound word you've ever heard in your life?
I think for me, the statement that comes to my mind is basically a statement by evangelist Reinhard Bonnke. He said, an evangelist is not a man in two minds. He's about the urgency of the gospel, a preaching of the gospel. And I remember reading that quote and thinking, you know what, if I'm called to be an evangelist, it's got to be about the urgency of preaching the gospel. The gospel and nothing else matters. That was about the part of the quote, the gospel. The gospel. And I think in society right now, that's what it is. You know, you can take the narrative from the media, whatever that's going out there right now, or as a Christian, you can say, hey, the narrative is Jesus, the narrative is the gospel, and I'm not going to speak about anything else other than the gospel.
What would you say to that Christian who has loved the idea of evangelism, but isn't quite sure how they would do it?
I think it's about learning. Evangelism is one of those things about learning. Any church that preaches a message, they have different topics. And you can learn about faith, you can learn about prayer, you can learn about a healed heart, as we learned this morning, but about evangelism. I don't know how to do evangelism. Then I want to encourage you, be a learner. Be a lifelong learner in evangelism. So if you're starting at the very beginning, you don't know what to say, how to engage your friends, you've had arguments, debates, this kind of stuff, and you don't know how to share your faith, then sit in the seat of the learned. Learn wisdom from evangelists. And that's what this Evangelists Conference is about. Getting evangelists who've had an encounter with Jesus into a room, all 5 or 6 of us, whatever there is, and teaching you guys what Jesus has done personally in our lives. That's what it's all about.